Okay, so I have been wondering about a number of different theories on how One Direction ended, and I think a lot of the theories are components of the truth. There's the theory that Harry pushed for it because he wanted to start his solo career. There's a theory that there was a push for a break because of the exhaustion of having been run ragged for 6 years. There's been multiple theories, and I think that it's possible that all the theories are actually correct, that they're actually all true concurrently. So, one of the things that are really telling is how much the fandom seems to take sides. Like it's it's not possible sometimes to talk about Louis and Harry without the Zaries coming in and trying to push a Zayn narrative, which I don't want to talk about. I don't agree with the Zaries theory. I think that there was a friendship that Zayn had with the others that are that was not evident with Harry for some reason. If anything, there's two ways to go about it. One is that Harry and Zayn were never really friends, and it got even more and more distant. And then Zayn leaving for his health, just Harry said things, and that was it. The other theories is that if there really was a Zari, and that Zayn doesn't even want to talk about Harry, he doesn't even want to mention his name, that he's just disgusted with everything that happened. That's certainly true too. I just think that Zayn and Liam really were the ones that were together, and that Zayn seemed to pine for Liam. So if Zayn and Louis were connected, then it's because they both understood what position they were in. Zayn and Louis are both very intelligent people. And there's an old X Factor diary footage where Harry says, I would like to be Zayn because he's really intellectual. And I think we underestimate Zayn, not just as an artist, as a vocalist, but also just as a person. I think he's actually quite intelligent. Um, in terms of Niall, now somebody pointed this out. And I posted this subscriber's comment because it was pretty thorough that Niall, I think, is not the only one who doesn't have tattoos. If I'm wrong, tell me, but I don't think so. I think he is the one who he's the only one who doesn't have them. Um, someone had pointed out that it takes a lot for Niall to be upset, and he was seemingly upset in a final interview with the band around the times that the hiatus talks was there, and that it was about Harry making Niall mad. So I don't know. I mean, I could see that it would take a lot to make Niall mad, and for him to get mad, Harry must have done something. But it sort of contradicts a lot of the work that was done by Louis and Liam to get out of that psycho contract. So I think there were a number of things pushing for the band to end, or at least stop in the form that it was taking. Because uh, did Louis suggest a hiatus as a compromise, or did Louis see the inevitability of it and just decide to, uh, you know, cut his losses? I don't know. But I don't think Louis wanted to stop performing, and he clearly didn't want to stop performing because he kept going even with the industry not being in his corner. And for the people that think I'm bashing Harry and I'm bullying him, I'm not. I just I if anything, I'm really disappointed and just almost concerned that if you look at just how fun and charming he was and how he was much more engaging with the fans uh, uh, during One Direction. So there's just a lot of joy with it, with talking to fans, and it's just like I said, I really do miss the bright light that Harry has. I just don't think it's going to come back. So why am I supposedly not as favorable to Harry? Maybe part of it is I like the underdog. I prefer the underdog. I've always been this way. I also like to see credit when credit is due. I don't like to see somebody being propped up without the um, without the credentials, which happens all the time in life. I just don't like it. But I also think that it's a story about, for the people that say they're concerned about Harry, you're right. You should be concerned about Harry because Harry, I've never seen someone so angelic before. just so unbelievably cute suddenly become this version of himself that is anathema to anything that we saw before. It's like, I don't know, like I make it akin to what the other subscriber said is like he's a real life Faust. He made a deal with Diablo. And I'm saying this in a metaphorical sense as a phrase of speech. I'm not saying that there's a contract with the demonic. I don't want to go there. Um, but what I think has happened is that if you ever look up the term moral injury, and moral injury happens when you go against your own values, what we're seeing in Harry might be having to live with what he's done and going against his values. Now, I don't know. It's on some level you see just he's just evolved, but I do think that he would not have evolved to the manner in which he did in the direction that it went if he and Louis had not been closeted in the very beginning. Because that grenade video, they're not even trying to hide it. It has 13 million views, and it's because he's just can't contain himself. I mean, he's 16 years old. You know, everyone remembers 16 and hormones, right? But but um, the other boys, they're now men. I keep calling them boys because I'm just going to do it. Because they, to me, that I still see them kind of as the youngsters they were. But if you look at if you look into their eyes, and it's not a cliche, the eyes really are a mirror to the soul. If you look in their eyes, there's still a brightness to them, and it it's almost it's almost concerning that the youngest of them all are looks older than all of them, and looks, for like Liam Payne had his challenges, but even despite that, he still looked his age. He still kind of looked boyish, and he had documented challenges with substances. So if you look at um, Harry now, you're looking at the face of somebody who has betrayed people that really cared about him, and he has betrayed, worst of all, himself, and at the second worst, Louis. And it was the price that he chose to pay because of the position he'd been put in. I don't think he would have gone there. I don't think he would have been that vulnerable if it had not been for the closeting. If they had been allowed to just love each other openly and, pushed the acceptance, which sometimes you got to push acceptance, just the way people had to push equal rights. And yeah, no, it's not okay to segregate people. Um, I just think that a lot of what had hurt Harry had been the closeting, Louis trying to go along with it, Louis um, wanting to protect him, but at the same time, not break the contract early on, and then the forced closeting with bringing in Eleanor. I think that all those jabs to little Harry's heart, you see it break his soul. I mean, he was so sensitive. You can tell. I mean, that's why I don't hate him. I just I feel bad at some of the things that he did out of spite and also just out of hurt. And I don't know him, so I could be completely wrong. And if I am, I will admit it. But I think that if they had not been closeted, just some of the pain that he went through that made him have to almost compartmentalize in a different way than the other boys, and in very different way than Louis, was, someone said his superpower is being able to be professional despite hurting inside. And that comes with his high agreeableness and his need to be liked and his favoritism towards social harmony. And if you think of just the jabs that were constantly like little daggers to his heart over the whole Louis thing, with what the closeting did, I think it was almost like a setup to for him to go in the direction that has been almost a polar opposite of how he was presented in in one direction. It's like he's evolved in some ways and he's devolved in other ways. it's quite telling.